Wow, the end of 2025. I always take time at the end of the year to kind of look back and look ahead and think about things. This has been a bit of a triumph for me in that I've been able to put myself on the hook every week for a whole year. Put myself on the hook is a little phrase that I stole from Seth Godin, who has a daily blog, which I highly recommend, by the way, if you're into that sort of thing. Godin. He just has really great little thoughts every day. But anyway, he says that it kind of challenges people to put themselves on the hook. And he uses the analogy, whether this is apocryphal or not, I don't know. But the story is that back in the day when people went into the market to get some meat or whatever, they would get whatever they went in to buy, but then they might say, put some up, put a I don't know, a slice of ham up there on the hook for me. And the idea was that the next person who came in who might need some ham but maybe not be able to afford it, well, you kind of paid it forward. You put that on the hook for the next person who came along. So Seth's idea is that everybody ought to put themselves on the hook. You put yourself out there and you just say, I'm sharing this with you. If anyone comes along who needs it, help yourself. So I've been doing that this year. And the benefits for other people, I don't know. I don't really know how much this has been useful to other people, but I do know it has been enormously helpful to me to have this discipline of just sharing myself every day. And it has affected more than just whatever audience I have. It has affected the people in my own life as I've just thought about how do I share my journey, myself, with other people. And I've had to think about that every week. So one thought I have for you is that as you look ahead to 2026, how might you put yourself on the hook? Maybe you're an artist, maybe you're a writer, a singer, maybe you're just really good with your hands at building things, or whatever your thing is. I would just, encourage you to take a page from Seth Godin's advice here and put yourself on the hook. So, as I look back on 2025, the biggest step by far was coming out. And by coming out, I don't mean announcing that I am a gay man, which I am not. Many have thought I, bear many of the traits and have wondered about that. It turns out I'm not. But I have felt sort of some sense of this must be what it's like to be gay. When I made this transition from being a full-time public figure of, being professing Christianity and then having this huge shift in my life where that was no longer me anymore, and everyone was looking at me through a certain lens, assuming a certain thing. And that just wasn't me anymore. And I was afraid to tell people because I wasn't sure how people would respond to that. But it just felt really inauthentic. It wasn't like it was a big deal to people. It was just a big deal to me. I just didn't feel like I was living an honest life. And so some of you will remember that about a year ago now, I just sat in this chair and I just said the truth. And the truth is that I consider myself now post-Christian, not anti-Christian, but just that I don't embrace the truths that I used to build my life on. And, that's uncomfortable for some people to hear, perhaps. And I can tell you for a fact, it's what has been incredibly uncomfortable for me to make peace with. So I've been working on that for a long time, really for a whole decade, just trying to figure out if that's not me and if that's not how I base my life, then who am I and how do I live? I had a vision way back before all of this happened. And it's not like I'm a guy who has zillions of visions or is seeing, dreams and signs and things like that. I just don't much. But I had this one I guess you would call it a vision. I was sitting in my chair in the morning and I was doing my normal routine. And at that time, I was reading my Bible. And I just had this image of a cave. And it was this dark entrance to a cave. And I did not want to go in there. It was scary. It was dark. It was like, man. And I had this strong sense that if I went in there, I would lose everything. That my whole life, my whole foundation for my existence, all of that just be gone. But I also, at the same time, had this pull, this draw. Even though it was scary, there was something in me that wanted to go in because I knew that if I went in there, that the things that I was longing for, well, I would find them in there after I'd lost everything that I was used to leaning on. Well, that has proven to be very much the case for me. I have entered into a stage of life where I've had to leave behind everything that was kind of me, and I have found a whole new way to live. So I've made this shift, and I call it now an existential shift. And I've been trying to share how I've been living my life when I lost my belief. To put it one way, I lost my faith, but that really freaks people out when you say that. So I've learned not to put it that way. But living without a set of beliefs or a structure that my Christian faith used to give me has been really hard, to say the least. But I've been trying to share how over the course of a decade, I found a way to do that. But as I look back on this year, I feel like I've been giving you like all these pieces and all these examples. I've talked about the specters. I've talked about the three breaths. I've drawn islands and described journeys between the islands. I have drawn charts. I've done all these different ways to try to explain the shift that has happened in my life. What I feel like is that I've given you all the ingredients to make brownies, but no recipe. So here's a piece, and here's a piece, and here's a piece. I even started this club, the Facing Up Club, a monthly live gathering where I was, wanting to invite people who are going through the same kind of shift to come together and just sort of share their victories and their defeats and their questions, and just, that a place for people who are going through this to be together. And that's been great, but in some ways, I feel like I may have put the cart before the horse here, because I'm inviting people to come and share this life before I've really shown or explained to people how to make the shift to that life. Now, I've been working on that for all year. I mean, that's been something that I've been trying to do. It's like, how do I explain this? How do I help people who have, feel this shedding of all that they were and know that they're being called into this like metamorphosis? How do you help people to like move through that? Well, of course, in some ways it's very personal. I can't do it for anyone, but I do think there are some lessons, some principles I've learned about making this shift that could be super helpful and could share. And so I want to tell you that in 2026, I'm putting myself on the hook again. First of all, that I will continue weekly to just share my life as I'm living this life beyond belief, and this life that has emerged since I left behind everything that I once knew and have kind of embraced my not knowing and not being able to attain, the goal that I'm longing for, and facing the challenge of just human nature and just the bloodiness and ruthlessness of our world. Looking those things square in the eye, living a life facing up in the face of all that. I mean, so I'm going to continue to share that life with you on a weekly basis. But the most important thing that I will do in 2026, without question, in fact, I could almost say the most important thing that I can do with my life, the the thing that I feel really compelled to do in 2026 is to share a way, a path to help people make this shift from a faith-based or belief-based or story-based kind of existence to an existential existence. And okay, I'm tempted to just start going into all, the details of that, but I won't, because I would just be throwing more ingredients at you as I have been doing week by week here, and just trying to share this with you. But my goal is to put this in a clear and concise way that will help people to see, here's how you move from here to there. I'm calling this orientation. And I'm calling it orientation because, well, think about this. If sometimes when I'm out on a trip, I'm on a backpack trip or something, and I'll be walking down the trail and someone will come along who's lost. They don't know where they are, and they don't have, maybe their phone went dead, or they've lost their maps, or whatever. They're all turned around. And they'll say, well, do you know where we are? Do you know where I am? And I'll pull out my map and we'll look at it together. And yeah, the lake's up that way, the car's back that way, down in the valley, there's that river. And, so I show them the map, I show them where they are on it. And that whole encounter might take a couple of minutes. It doesn't take long, but it changes everything for them, because now they're oriented. They still have to hike. They still have to, go through their day and the whole thing. But now it's like they know where they are. I'm here. I'm going there. I get it. And that's what this shift has done for me. I feel oriented in my body for the first time. And I guess as a Christian, I felt that too. But when the maps, when the structures, when I realized that they were man-made, I felt like, well, I'm oriented, but this map that I'm going by is kind of man-made. And so I don't feel like authentic about it. I don't feel like, oriented in with reality. I'm oriented to my Christian framework, but I'm not oriented to my existence. So the goal will be to create this for you by February 14th. That's the date I've set, Valentine's Day. It's my gift of love to you, and I'm going to be looking for a few people, 2, 3, 4, 5 people who would be willing to try this out. It won't be a big long thing. I'm trying to make this very concise. I'm trying to make it so that you can fit it into the cracks of your life. Because I know you got to keep living your life, right? You can't just stop everything for a few months, and hey, I'm just going to stop everything and take a 6-month walkabout. Honey, I'll be back in 6 months. Or, you kind of got to keep going. So I'm designing this in a way that you can do it on the go. The pieces of it will be really just 3 parts, starting with just getting real. I mean, facing the cave, looking at, here's who I am, here's where I am. And as you do that, you'll face what it means to be human. You won't just see the world, you'll see how you fit in the world. And you'll understand not why you're here, but you'll understand and accept, or maybe a better way to put it is, you'll face who you are and where you are in the world. So that's sort of like looking at the cave and going okay, here's the deal. The second part will be to make the shift. And that is the shift. This is the breakthrough from going to a mode where you're sort of defining your life by stories and man-made frameworks, to where you're really embracing your life with a new perspective. It's like the shift between an escape from your fear to an embrace of those fears as a part of your life, and experiencing that those fears are the door to a new existence. It's the shift that I'm talking about. And I'm sorry, it's so hard to put this just sort of in this rambly explanation, but it is that shift from a circumstantial, faith-based, story-based existence to the existential. So it's not hard. I don't even think it's that complicated. And so I've tried to put this in a very clear, focused way with some exercises that you can do to make that shift. And then the third part is entering back into your life. So, okay, I'm oriented. So now what do I do? Just plop down and, like, I'm done. Everything's good. No. Once you are oriented, now you know what to do. Now you know where you want to go. For me, this has given life so much more meaning, so much more focus and purpose. I mean, I know what I'm doing. I know why I'm doing it. And I know how to treat people. And it just has given me access to a whole new world to be focused. So the life beyond belief has been for me what I experienced when I went through that door. So to summarize again, like step one is just getting real about looking at the outside of the cave, saying this is the deal. Step two is going through, going through this darkness, facing it, and seeing then step three, or the third part of this, the life that comes beyond belief. Now I realize in what I've just done here, I haven't made this sound very coherent or easy, but that's the challenge. And I think I can do this. I just feel compelled to try to make this doable. So, as I said, this will not be something that will take a huge amount of time, but if I am successful at this, I will be able to help you make this shift from this life that feels so fragile and fabricated to one that feels so much more real, authentic, meaningful. That's the shift that has happened in my life, and that's the shift that I feel compelled to share with you in 2026. So I'm on the hook. January 14th. If you're interested in being one of my beta testers for this, one of the people who will try this and give me some feedback so I can refine it, with the hope later in the year of then making this available more widely to people. If you're a person who would be willing to give that a shot, just email me. I can keep you updated on the development of this. And, if you have questions, of course, I'd be happy to answer those. Happy New Year to you. I hope it really is a Happy New Year, and not one where it's tied to the latest news cycle or the latest event in your life, but one which is really deeply rooted in your very existence, which is this unshakable yes to life that's up for anything, a life facing up, a life beyond belief. Happy New Year.